Have you ever stayed up at night replaying a problem over and over again in your head, wishing you could fix it, change it, or understand it? What if the reason you're tired, overwhelmed, and anxious is because you're trying to control something Allah never asked you to carry? There is peace in surrender. There is strength in saying, Ya Allah, I leave it to you. The more you try to force what's beyond your reach, the more exhausted your soul becomes. But the moment you step back and let Allah handle what you cannot, everything begins to shift. In this reminder, we'll explore how faith replaces frustration and how true power begins where your control ends. The illusion of control. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest tricks of the nafs is to convince us that we are in control. That if we just try harder, stress more, think deeper, we can fix everything. But the reality is, control is an illusion. Only Allah has full power over every outcome. You may plan, prepare, and do your best, but the final result is in His hands, not yours. How often do we find ourselves exhausted, not because of the hardship itself, but because of our constant need to control it? We replay conversations, try to fix other people, chase results that are not ours to determine. And all the while, our hearts grow restless, forgetting that peace comes not from control, but from trust in the controller. The Quran reminds us, and they plan, and Allah plans, but Allah is the best of planners. You see, there is a silent arrogance in trying to manage what only Allah can. It's subtle. It hides behind the veil of responsibility, but it often turns into anxiety when we forget that our job is effort, not outcome. Many times we think letting go means giving up, but it doesn't. Letting go means acknowledging your limits. It means saying, Ya Allah, I've done my part, the rest belongs to you. And that moment when your heart truly releases is when real tawakkul begins. We often measure success by how much we control. But in Islam, success is measured by how much we trust. Did you pray? Did you act with sincerity? Did you place your matter in the hands of Allah? That's what truly matters. Because no matter how strong you are, nothing moves without His permission. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ faced rejection, pain, betrayal. Yet, he never let those hardships steal his peace. Why? Because he never tried to force what only Allah could control. He surrendered without weakness. That is the strength we are called to embody. There is a difference between doing your best and trying to be Allah. When you try to control the outcomes, force timelines, manipulate situations, you step into a role that doesn't belong to you. Allah is Al-Mudabbir, the one who arranges all affairs. You are His servant, not His substitute. Sometimes we worry so much about the future that we forget who holds the future. We plan every detail, then panic when it doesn't go our way. But perhaps Allah is redirecting you, not rejecting you. And if you had full control, you might miss something far better written for you. Control gives the illusion of power, but it steals your peace. It whispers you're not doing enough. It convinces you that outcomes define your worth. But the believer knows outcomes are not your burden. Sincerity and submission are. When we stop trying to control everything, we start to see the signs of Allah. We notice His protection in the delays, His wisdom in the silence, His mercy in what didn't work out. But we only notice these things when we stop clinging to our illusion and open our hearts to His will. The tight grip we have on life often strangles our own serenity. The more we try to grasp control, the more it slips through our fingers. But when we loosen that grip and hand our affairs to Allah, we find that the peace we were chasing was never outside, it was in surrender. So my dear brothers and sisters, release the illusion. Let go of what was never yours to hold. You are not meant to carry the universe on your shoulders. You are meant to fall in sujood, lift your hands and say, Ya Allah, I trust you with what I cannot control. That is where peace begins. That is where your heart rests. Tawakkul, the heart of surrender. Tawakkul is not just a word we say, it's a state of the heart. It is when your soul finally breathes after holding on too tightly to this world. It is the moment you stop wrestling with the things you can't change and instead say, Ya Allah, I leave it in your hands. True tawakkul is not weakness, it's the strongest form of spiritual trust. My beloved brothers and sisters, we often confuse tawakkul with passiveness. But Islam teaches us to tie our camel and then rely on Allah. This means you plan, you work, you make dua, but in the end, you hand over the outcome to the one who knows what you do not. Tawakkul isn't inaction, it is the balance between effort and surrender. There are times in life when you've done everything right, yet things still don't work out. That's when tawakkul is truly tested. Will you still believe Allah's plan is better? Will you still trust His wisdom over your own? That moment of uncertainty is the doorway to spiritual growth if your heart chooses surrender over struggle. When you practice tawakkul, your heart becomes light. You stop overthinking, stop forcing, stop fearing. You realize that your job is to strive, not to control. Allah did not ask you to be in charge of results. He asked you to walk with faith, pray with sincerity, and rest knowing He never miscalculates. The beauty of tawakkul is that it brings calm even in chaos. The waves of life may roar, but your heart remains anchored. You stop panicking about what might happen because you know Allah already wrote the best outcome even if it's not the one you expected. That's real faith. That's deep peace. Tawakkul doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you stop falling apart when life gets hard. You no longer question every delay or breakdown. Instead, you begin to see Allah's mercy in every moment, even in disappointment, because you trust the one who sees the full picture, not just today. Some people rely on connections, wealth or status, but the believer relies on the Most High. When you place your trust in Allah, you're never truly alone. Even if people abandon you, even if the world misunderstands you, Allah remains and His help arrives exactly when it's needed. Every prophet lived through trials that required tawakkul. From Ibrahim alayhi salam walking into the fire, to Musa alayhi salam standing before the sea, to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Kaaba, each moment of fear was met with full reliance on Allah. And every time Allah delivered in miraculous ways. Your tawakkul will often be tested in silence. No big signs, no instant answers. Just you, your prayer mat and a heart full of dua. But it's in those quiet moments that your faith is purified. It's when you trust Him without seeing the result that you show Allah your sincerity. Tawakkul turns your burdens into blessings. What you once feared, you now face with calm. What once kept you up at night now becomes a reason for sujood. You don't ignore reality, you just put it in perspective. You see trials as tools and delays as divine timing. When you place your trust in Allah, you allow space for miracles. Doors open from directions you never imagined. Comfort arrives in unexpected forms. And sometimes what you prayed for is replaced with something far better. Not because you earned it, but because you trusted His plan over your own. So my brothers and sisters, carry this in your heart. Tawakkul is the secret to serenity. Not because life gets easier, but because your soul finally lets go of control. Say it often, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for us and the best one to rely on. Ameen. When worry becomes worship, there are times when your heart is so heavy, your mind so restless, that you find yourself pacing, sighing, and overthinking. But my brothers and sisters, worry in the hands of a believer can be transformed. When you take that pain and raise your hands to the sky with dua, it is no longer anxiety, it becomes an act of worship. You were never meant to carry everything alone. That worry, that fear, that sadness, it's a call from Allah to return to Him. Every tear you cry in sujood is counted. Every whisper of Ya Allah, help me is heard. When you convert your fear into reliance, you are not just coping, you are worshipping. Sometimes the sleepless nights you spend worrying are actually moments where your soul is being awakened. You begin praying more, seeking forgiveness, giving charity, reflecting on your life. That is not a breakdown, that is transformation. Allah uses worry to bring your heart back to what truly matters. It's easy to think that worry is weakness. But in Islam, what matters is what you do with it. If it makes you bitter, it can destroy you. But if it makes you better, it can elevate you. When you pour your worries into prayer, they don't drown you, they purify you. Think of Maryam alayhi salam, alone and in pain, calling out to Allah beneath the palm tree. Her worry led to surrender, and her surrender led to divine provision. Worry isn't a sin, it's what you do with it that counts. If it leads you to Allah, it becomes a door to Jannah. Worry that leads to remembrance of Allah is no longer a burden, it becomes light. It becomes something sacred. Every heartbeat that says, I can't do this, is met with a divine whisper saying, but I can. When you place your trust in Him, your fear no longer owns you. There's beauty in realizing you're not in control. That realization hurts, yes, but it also heals. Because you stop blaming yourself for what's beyond your power. You start trusting the one who already wrote your story. Worry softens your ego when it leads you to sujood. The Prophet ﷺ would turn to prayer when he was deeply distressed. Not because the problem would disappear immediately, but because the heart would find peace. That's the real secret. Peace doesn't come from resolution, it comes from connection with the Creator. Sometimes you won't know what to say in your dua. You'll just cry or sit in silence. That's okay. Allah understands your heart before you speak. Even your silence, if it's filled with faith, becomes worship. Even your confusion, if handed to Him, becomes clarity. Worry can be a mercy in disguise. It humbles you. It reminds you that you're dependent, that you're human, and that only through Allah can you truly find strength. So don't let your worry drive you away from Allah. Let it pull you closer to Him. That is when it becomes worship. My dear brothers and sisters, if you're carrying something heavy, stop trying to carry it alone. Turn your anxiety into action in the form of prayer, patience, and trust. That's when your heart shifts from chaos to calm. That's when you realize your pain has purpose. In the end, the believer doesn't just feel, they transform. They take what the world calls weakness and turn it into worship. So worry, but worry with faith. Cry, but cry